So, ladies and gentlemen, with our next session, let me tell you what we're about to focus on. Now, with the number of malls that are coming up, largely in urban India, being limited, the scope of growth for the multiplex chains is largely desired in small towns of India. The best opportunities here are the old single screens, which also offer the scope of being converted into 2 or 3 screen properties. And with disposable income levels on the rise in such smaller towns, the market potential of tier 2 and 3 towns is massive. And the future of the growth of film exhibition will widely be driven in this direction. Innovative smart marketing tactics can also result in increasing footfalls across theaters by introducing special schemes and promotions. All this and more is what we're going to discuss in our next session today, because Indian movies are attracting millions around the world, and that number is always set to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage our moderator for the next session, Mr. Akshay Rathi, Director, Saroj Screens. May I request on stage our panelists, Mr. Amit Praveen Sharma, Managing Director, Miraj Entertainment. Mr. Rajeev Sharma, CEO, NY Cinemas. Divyaruban Mathivanan, Managing Director, GK Cinemas, Tamil Nadu. Mr. Arijit Datta, Managing Director, Priya Entertainments, West Bengal. Mr. Vishnu Patel, CEO, Special Projects, UFO Movies. And Deena Mukherjee, Director and CEO, Movie Card India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome them with a huge round of applause, please. Over to you, Mr. Rathi.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I realize this is after lunch, and we've started about 20 minutes late. So rather than speaking about the topic, we'll get straight to the point. As you all know, the scope of growth in the tier 2 and tier 3 towns is massive. The metros, the bigger towns, already have quality exhibition infrastructure, and the scope for growth in terms of exhibition infrastructure as well as the movie business out of theatrical avenues is really in the smaller towns. So let's start with the newborn baby of the exhibition sector, which is named after the babies of its promoters, Mr. Ajay Devgan. NY Cinemas, just newly on the block, on the rise, doing very well. And we have Rajeev from NY Cinemas. What I'll try and do is I'll take this conversation forward in the chronological order of how the life of a cinema starts and how it reaches its operations and optimization. So Rajeev, since you are taking up a lot of single screens and converting them or refurbishing them or even doing a few greenfields, I believe, would you like to speak about the feasibility and the study that goes behind identifying the right kind of locations and properties?
Sure, Akshay. So, like you rightly said, we are a newborn baby, a startup company. And with the blessings of the industry, I hope that we take this passion to the heights that we aim to. Before I start talking about the feasibility, there are many more experienced people on the dais here to share their experiences on this front. The introduction of NY Cinemas in terms of what kind of cinemas are we going to make? Are we only looking at refurbishment cinemas? Are we only looking at conversions? Well, friends, we are here for a long game. We are passionate about this business, and hence we have decided to venture into this space. What kind of cinemas we're going to make? we would let time speak about it, our experiences speak about it. Yes, we are looking at presenting the experience of cinema in a very different way. Well, that's why we are passionate about what we are doing. And you would see this happening October onwards when we do our brand launch around November, December. Yes, we started off with a few independent screens that which we took up as conversions. All of us here understand the feasibility for any project has to be rewarding for anyone to go ahead and invest in these properties. Obviously, the first thing that comes to the mind is what kind of population are you talking about? What kind of cities are you talking about? How many screens do exist in these cities? Do they have an option of multiplexes? Do they have an option of going out and spending time in a mall? Or do they have the infrastructure of a mall? Well, as rightly put, there is a lot of opportunity in this Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 cities. And well, we talk about these opportunities business-wise. There are plenty of procedural challenges, difficulties that one faces when you look at these feasibilities. Yes, of course. Comparing it to the A centers, the A cities, the metro cities, the rates are extremely low when you take up cinemas in Tier 3 and Tier 2 or Tier 4 cities. They are available at a much economical price, which justifies the investment that one can bring on table to convert them into a 2-screen or a 3-screen. At times, you're lucky to even have a space for retail down and do much other activities around with it as well. But at the same time, the challenges are the norms that existed those days when these cinemas were made and the norms that exist today. Yeah, it's traveled a lot and it's not as easy as we think. There are going to be a lot of challenges when you go to multiple departments to get your NOCs and permissions. I wish that this activity that we all wish to take is well supported by the government in many ways so that we have a single window clearance rather than tapping at many doors at the same time. Needless to say that all these locations, when we look at centers like in the Tier 2 and Tier 3, there is disposable income. People do not have many opportunities to go out and spend time with their families. Entertainment, there are not many places that they can have a good evening with in a secured, safe manner. Well, a theater and a movie-going experience solves these kind of problems when you have multiple opportunities for them to explore in your space. These locations, most of the times, are centrally located. When you look at Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, the cinemas that were made those days have very good positioning. Unfortunately, today in the centers, when you look at a greenfield project, a lot of compromises to make because most of the centers are either built outside the city or in extensions, and not many options come into the center of the city. But when you look at Tier 2 and Tier 3, these opportunities are much more lucrative to look at when you look at them located in a very densely populated space and thick, and the kind of footfalls that you expect definitely meets your requirement.
Right, Rajeev. Coming forward from the procedure of identifying the feasibility and understanding the feasibility of locations, let's get down to the next step, which is the operational challenges that come with the running of a cinema. And one of the leading chains nationally, of course, is Miraj, which is represented by Amit here. Amit, you've identified and started off a lot of screens. You've in fact crossed the count of 100 now in India. It would be nice if you can speak about the challenges of keeping these screens running in the context of Tier 2 and 3 towns.
So Akshay, actually first for everybody to understand generally what happened in every kind of discussion for last 5, 7, 8 years, we are talking about there's a growth opportunity sits down there in the smaller town of the country. But we need to understand first from an exhibition business perspective, population is not the criteria to actually put the smaller town Tier 3, Tier 4. It is actually the movie consumption behavior. So the movie consumption behavior differs in country from north to east, south to west. So for that matter, Nandurbar maybe is not the right example to put in terms of the population what Gurdaspur has, or it is also not what is Tiruvannamalai or maybe a Kakinada or Rajahmundry has. So if you look at it, the movie consumption pattern differs in part of the country. So I guess first we need to start putting movie consumption behavior in tier 3, tier 4 rather than actually just putting the population number. That's the first point to, I want to clarify that, when we talk about smaller towns, the movie consumption is something which needs to be taken care. Number two, when it comes to smaller towns of the country in this digital age, the aspiration of the people is very high. I mean, you can't go and make a budget property down there in the smaller cities, because the guys who are sitting out there in the smaller towns, they are also in this digital age connected with the globe. And it is very important to understand that the aspiration is to go and watch the movie in a nice, good-looking multiplex. And trust me, it doesn't come from budget. So because your technology cost, your acoustic, your soul of the cinema, which is air condition, your fire, your MAP, etc., the safety of the people, when you talk about. See, all that thing, be it in Bombay or be it in Nandurbar, it remains same. The cost of doing the capex remains same. The only place where you can go and make a little budgeted cinema in terms of look and feel of the lobby. Probably you're making a 3-star lobby, not the 5-star hotel lobby. Does not, the total capex cost is not more than 10-20% plus minus. The problem what I see right now in tier 3, tier 4 cities or smaller cities, specifically where you have a Bollywood content running or the Hindi content running, where you do not have a support of a good regional content coming in, the kind of content which has been made right now, because right now our Bollywood industry or the Hindi cinema is actually getting towards the meaningful cinema, and unfortunately down there in the smaller cities, it is actually a mass consumption happening. So I mean, you can take the example of a lot of films from Bagi to Satyamav Jayate and all of that. If you look at the number of smaller cities, it's like much higher compared to a cinema which release along with it. Operationally, if you'll ask me again, if you're at Maharashtra, then you have to go and pay the same minimum wages in Bombay and Nandurbar, same places. So if you look at the cost in terms of running a cinema, be it electricity cost, be it your operation cost of staff, to all of that, it remains almost same. And thankfully, our government have been taking care of us in our industry. I mean, 28% GST, it remains same for Bombay and for the smaller cities both. So, if you look at from that structure point of view, there is no benefit coming to smaller cities to go and open a cinema. Because your capex remains same, your cost of making the cinema to running the cinema, it is almost same. I mean, what you're doing in the smaller cities or in a bigger cities. Whereas the ticket price is much more difference. Your F&B offtake is much lower compared to the bigger cities of the country. But at the same time, the way we look at it, in Miraj, I mean, we were one of the first to actually get into this smaller city market. So we started from 2013 and we started getting into the smaller cities. So today also out of our, approximately 100 screens operations, we have around 40 to 45%, screen sits there in the tier 3, tier 4 cities of the country. It is very important what Rajeev has said. I'll just take that thing forward. That very important to look at the market to understand maybe a Chhindwara and Rewa Hindi belt does not give you an option of a regional films, and because of the movie consumption is maybe very low. But when you go down south in Rajahmundry, Kakinada, or maybe Tiruvannamalai, so the movie consumption is very high. When you get into Punjab, then probably the tier 3, tier 4 cities react differently and you have a better movie consumption happening because of the regional content. So talking exactly from opening a cinema in tier 3, tier 4 cities, making the cinema and running the cinema, I see no difference from a tier 1 city. If you'll ask me, you can't go and do much about in terms of making and running the cinema.
Now, Amit, while you've said that there's not much of a difference between the capex and opex involved in running cinemas in tier 1 and tier 3 or 4 towns, the demand-supply gap in terms of avenues of recreation is a huge difference. If you're in Bombay or if you're in Delhi, you have places like, let's say, Imagica to go out to, you have restaurants, you have discotheques, you have all sorts of avenues. But in smaller towns, the recreational outing for a family, for a lot of places, is still a cinema. And that demand-supply gap is something that UFO is trying to fill with Nova Cinemas, with a very innovative model that's not just about a cinema, but that's about a structure that involves retail, that involves cinema and a lot more. Vishnu, sir, would you like to speak more about this?
Yeah, बिठा दिया है तो बोलूँगा ही ना भैया. So anyways, the discussion, if I'm taking forward from that, is right in a way that most of the kind of the capex involved is pretty much similar to either a bigger town or a smaller town. Okay. Yes, I think we have been talking over, I mean, I've been involved in this kind of talks over a period of about 5 to 6 years. And we all know what is required, what needs to be done, and where all we need to go from here. Because if you see the screen density in the higher cities is almost as good as the other countries. But the minute you step out of the 20 big cities, the screen density is pathetic. And everybody knows that India needs maybe 20, 30,000 screens. And where are they going to come from? They're going to come from these smaller towns, okay? Because you're already getting saturated in the bigger cities. So what do we do for those towns now to kind of quickly grow with the entertainment centers, okay? And for that, I think we need to have quite a few players who look into these areas, because the bigger players right now are not interested in looking into these areas. So there are local players, there are local entrepreneurs, there are local existing cinema owners who are looking to refurbish that theaters and fill the gap up. But that gap is huge and we need to fill it up very quickly, okay? So I think what UFO started its philosophy with that, that we want to be a unifying factor for the digital cinema. That's what we started with. Now we are going to take that one step forward. And we are kind of looking at giving a platform to the local players, because in the last 2 years we have floated the Nova project. I've come across a lot of interesting facts and interesting things that lot of tier, maybe I would call them 2 or 3, 3 or 4 cities which have a population of about 2.5 lakhs. Today, there are at least about 80, 90 kind of centers such as this, which don't even have a single screen cinema. They had maybe 2 or 3, they closed down because of, the troubles with the cinema running. So now, but what is happening is that these centers are developing as, kind of a mini shopping, kind of a trading centers over there. So there are a lot of local contractors who are building these small shopping centers with maybe 20 shops. You can't call them malls. You can't even call them mini malls because they're not as organized as that. But at most, they are very good planned out shopping centers. And these developers have already figured out that without putting 2 or 3 screens in that, my property is not going to work, okay? So there is a lot of opportunity in these shopping centers which we are coming across. But what is happening is the bigger players don't want to go there. There are no local players available to kind of take that up. So maybe, there is a gap, and that is the gap which we want to fill as Nova Cinemas. So what we provide is we provide a platform with a little bit of investment, not complete investment, which other players might do. And we provided other technology supports, programming supports, and we have seen that, we have seen a kind of a rapid kind of a growth in that area. And there, I think this little shopping centers are going to kind of, fill the need for this rapid growth, because those are already happening. If I'm not mistaken, I have kind of got the, about 200 to 300 kind of such projects. I've heard about that, we have mapped those, and we know that they are going to come into the market. Second area is refurbishment, which NY Cinema is doing. That's another area of quick growth. Because today, as he has mentioned, that biggest problem is that we don't have any government support in expanding this industry. I've been hearing about a lot of states talking about it, but nothing is happening. That they are all remain at a kind of an announcement level, couple of news items in the papers, and then nothing gets done. What is the need for this industry today? Okay, why people are more interested in not setting up a greenfield and interested in refurbishing a theater? Because it's easier to get a license, okay? if that process is made simpler and easier, I think a lot of greenfield projects would come up in these smaller towns. Also, there are entrepreneurs who have the land, who have the money, but they will never think of coming into cinema business. Why? Because they don't know how to do it. So that's where we want to come in and give them a helping hand, where we come in with the programming, we come in with a little investment, and also kind of a training of the staff and create those entrepreneurs. So I think government help is a must. So we have to kind of get together, form maybe some kind of a body, and go to the government for that. Yes, Amit said tax. Tax, anywhere in the world, I think the maximum tax is 10% on a cinema business. Okay, some of the countries have 5%, and most of the countries don't even have it. Okay, so we need to look at that, because today, I think 18% is up to 100 rupees and 28% up to, so I mean 18% tax kills, these smaller cinemas. Okay, and it also, I think someone is going to touch on the part, so I will not kind of touch on that. But I think industry as a whole needs to take a look at this, process. It is not going to work if the exhibitors only work on it, or even the service providers work on it. I think we need the support of the producer distributors also in this, because if you don't reach the content to these centers, nothing is going to work. Whatever you do, whatever amount of investment you do.
Going from the things that are not working for the exhibition sector to a part of the country where things are working pretty well, down south. And we have Ruben here from Tamil Nadu, which of course is a very different monster compared to the rest of the country, courtesy the peculiar nature of the exhibition sector there. Of course, Tamil Nadu is one of those few states where there's a cap on the pricing of cinema tickets, and I believe 158 is the highest you can charge for tickets. Yes. And then down south, all the 4 states, the density of the exhibition sector is far better compared to the northern states. Yes. So clearly, something is working right compared to the rest of the country, because you have states like Maharashtra which have a population that's way higher than Tamil Nadu. And despite that, you have the kind of numbers that Tamil films do, which a lot of, let's say, Marathi films or, Punjabi films or Gujarati films have never been able to achieve. You want to talk about that? What do you think is working right there?
Yeah, see, basically people got used to the ticket price of 120 for almost 10, 12 years. Only recently we got the price hike, like, if I'm right, last October. So that low price of ticket helps to keep up the occupancy. And I think that is the reason why the numbers are good compared to other states. And also the F&B cost is very nominal compared to other North Indian or the other state cinemas. So as in a limited budget, a family can watch a movie and enjoy it. So that is one of the main reason why we have a good box office down south.
And while the opportunity is, the content support is there down south, are there any innovative things that you do in terms of marketing the content or marketing the properties that you think makes a difference to the kind of business that's generated down south?
See, it's very easy to market a property in metropolitan cities. But when it comes to tier 2 or tier 3 cities, there is no multiple marketing tools available. Refurbishing or building up a new property is one thing, and taking that to audience is totally another thing. Because I myself experienced it. We recently renovated a property in a town, but we still find it very difficult to let people know that there is a new screen has come up and come out and see. So that is a very, we should come up with more innovative marketing ideas when it comes to tier 2 and tier 3 cities or towns, whatever it is. Probably, the digital service provider or the ticketing partners should help us in marketing the cinemas more and taking it to the people. Because it is the only cost-effective manner which will give you a out-of-home experience in all those places.
And talking of marketing the theatrical platform, we all know the flavor of the season is the OTT platforms. Netflix is marketing itself as a platform as much as it's marketing its shows. Hotstar, go solo is the tagline. It's not a tagline for the shows that are on Hotstar. It's a tagline for Hotstar as a platform. And I think we as the theatrical platform aren't doing enough to market the experience that goes with, being at a cinema. And something that's being done to market the theatrical experience and increase sales is, I'm sure, how many of you have heard of a concept in the US, which is a card that gives you access to multiple movies every month or every week. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it, and there's an attempt to replicate that in India, which Movie Card is doing. Dina, you want to speak about that?
So while I would like to talk about what the concept is, I have a very short presentation which I would like all of you to go through. Basically, it gives out a few facts, and thank you so much. So if we can just put up the presentation, please. So Movie Card is basically a concept. I will come to the concept a little later. I'll tell you why the concept. So the first slide, if we may move forward, please. So basically, one of the major facts about India is that we have the highest number of movies released and highest number of tickets sold. So this is a fact which is there inside movies. If we can press the next, please. Oh, thanks. So if you were to just look at the number of movies released in the US versus the number of movies released in China versus the number of movies released in India, we obviously have got the content bucket right. We have way more creative people and way more opportunity in terms of the number of movies that we release and the number of tickets that we sell. So basically, highest number of tickets, highest number of movies. The next one, we have a phenomenal social platform. That's the best part. That means a large part of the country actually socializes not online, but offline. And it's not inside a mall. It's inside a closed, dark screen area where they're enjoying something together. But now, since when I was a kid to versus now when I have a kid, it has become actually something which is a privilege for a few. Why? Because significantly, the number of screens which we have in this particular area, in cinemas, is much lesser than what we have across the world. Our screen density is the lowest. If you see in terms of screen density per million, India is just 7. Look at our population and look at the facility which we are providing to the population. Screen density being the lowest means that if you want to watch a movie, you have to travel quite a distance, something which we are all addressing over here, that we may want to watch a movie, it's not even there in small towns. Even if it's there in certain cities, it's a bit of a travel. It's not as frequent as a mall, it's not even as frequent as a cafe. So there's this limitation to it. Moving to the number of, the accessibility. The whole idea of being the number of screen count, which we are aiming for, we are talking about more screens. We have NY Cinemas over here. We have GK Cinemas, Priya. We have something very innovative like the Nova Cinemas. We have Miraj, which is growing. We have cinemas and exhibitors who are growing. And it's a very wonderful number to look at the projections, which we have read. By 2022, we should have approximately at least 15,000 or maybe more. Much more number of screens. Does it really live up to our requirement? Maybe not so much, but at least it's a much bigger number. But with that, currently, I don't know what the situation will be because I'm hoping to change the situation by 2022. Currently, we are looking at a different kind of rise. The rise is not in terms of number of people going to cinemas growing organically, but it's the ticket price, which is steadily growing. So we may not have been able to increase the organic occupancy inside cinemas, but cinemas are still growing and they're not dying because we have taken a controlled way of growing the ticket price. Will this be something which we can live for in the long run? I have my doubts. Because as a country, we believe in stipulated amount of incomes at every strata. The idea is that Cinemas or exhibitors and distributors, the fraternity sitting today, basically needs a solution. The solution cannot be that the number of screens versus the number of movies released versus the number of tickets. And if nothing works out, let's just hike up the ticket price, where we have seen ticket prices going really high. So what do we need? We need reach, which is cinemas, footprint. We need frequency, which is the number of people watching movies. We need a value for money concept. We have discount days, we have coupons, we have weekend and weekday specials, but we don't have one constant solution for value for money. These two leading to the idea that if we can crack this, then we solve the problem of increased footfalls and occupancy rate throughout the week, not just 52 weekends in the year, but throughout the week, addressing the 200 days which are actually going vacant by a solution which is called a subscription plan. If you note, we are suffering subscription plan. Netflix is a subscription plan. Cinemas, exhibitors are suffering that. Hotstar, we are suffering that. Amazon Prime, you are basically suffering because we don't have an answer to that issue today. Internationally, they have done it. Whether it's going through a different phase altogether is a different issue. We are a different demography. We have concepts like Flipkart and Amazon, which are breaking into it because digitally everything is on the rise. How do you protect your offline? Concept of movie card is very simple. Basically, launched last year, it's a simple cost of one ticket. It's a very simple cost. At the cost of one ticket, the member watches movies for 30 days. But it's from Monday to Thursday. Effectively identifying the space which cinemas are not able to fill. Weekdays is what we suffer most. We may have an occupancy between 10 to 25%. But 70% of the year, if you have 25% occupancy, I don't think we'll be able to bank only on weekends. This is a weekday program. At the cost of one ticket, the customer watches 30 days of movies, effectively 16 movies. There are certain riders, it's one movie, one day, one title a time. Currently, if you see the kind of price points, I don't know if it's visible, MovieCard has been able to actually compete in that category. When we go out and sell in the market, we say, "Aap Tata Sky ka kitna bharte ho? Amazon Prime kitne mein liya? Netflix lete hain aap? Nahi lete hain. Achhi baat hai." We compete on that. We don't even mention कि आप ticket price कितने का भर रहे हैं. Because I'm competing with the OTT players. And I give you something which is not there in the market. If you want to watch, पर pictures तो हमें दिखने को मिल जाती है. हाँ, 6 हफ्ते बाद. आपको Z पे आपको 6 हफ्ते बाद दिख जाएगी. पर आज अभी देखना है, शुक्रवार को रिलीज हुई है. सोमवार देख सकते हैं आप. 150 रुपये लीजिए, हर सोमवार जाके पिक्चर देख लीजिए, मंगलवार बुधवार भी देख लीजिए. The concept is to be able to give them the habit of coming back to cinemas. The stickiness of coming back to cinemas is most important. We have stopped going to cinemas because we can't afford more than once in 3 months. We'll wait for a Bahubali, a Dangal, or we'll wait for one of that movie जिसके लिए यार वो 200-300 का खर्चा कर लें, because it's not an individual cost. A family spends almost for a hit movie 1,200 rupees. It's 300 a head. This is for them. Come back to cinemas, watch it as frequently as you've been watching it when your parents were kids, which was every matinee show, every Friday show. So moving forward, basically, we are coming up with the concept of Movie Card 2.0 in the month of September. So please watch out. 15th of September is when we come out with something which is even more robust than this. The concept is simple. You buy a card, you activate it, then you use it, and you renew it. If you want to know some basics figures as to how well movie card users are using this card, I checked with one of the brands which is the biggest, and if I may quote this number, it is from PVR. They told us that we have the best footfall frequency. So our users, our customers come to us 4 times in a year. That's actually a very, very good number. Guess what movie card has? My strike rate is 3.5 a month. My customers come and watch movies 3 times in a month at that one cost of one ticket. Now, these seats are not for free. I am not going to ask for free tickets. We basically pay for the seat. So the distributor gets their money, the exhibitor gets their money, and yes, the government gets their tax. We pay for the seat cost. This is one of the biggest and the best plan which will reconstruct the way people will watch movies. There's only once in a while when a concept like this comes in a country like India, which can actually democratize the way people watch movies. Very quickly, moving on, just 2 more slides and I'm done, I promise. Idea is that it's not for the people who are looking for a gold class, a 4DX, an IMAX, it's not. It's for people who want to watch movies, for the love of watching movies. We are exploring, like the panel sitting here and many other panels which have spoken about exhibitors for the non-metro. We are present in metros, but we will aim for growing mostly the non-metros. That's where the habit of movies has to be brought in with the concept of reducing the cost. It's a non-metro concept. It basically offers value for money. It revives the lost love for cinemas, finally leading to the ability for aggregators to actually make sense, to give additional businesses to the cinemas. Something which is not visible, what I would like to explain, like, what we had done is basically we created a moat. Moat is basically like a fort. This protects the exhibitors and the distributors from other forms of entertainment which are creeping into the business of cinemas. Netflix, Prime, Hotstar, Z5, all are going to creep into your business of the ticket price being sold at the cinemas. People are ready to wait sometimes for 4 to 6 weeks for a movie, which they won't pay 150 or 200 bucks. In this case, this protects that business. They will not think about the cost of watching a movie anymore. They just come and watch the movie. The value chain is simple. The consumer is the person who gets the most, and because he gets the most, he participates the most. They see a value of minimum 1,600 rupees because it's 16 movies in a month. They pay 150 one time. Multiplex, higher occupancies, increased footfalls, especially weekdays. I'm still not going to encroach on your weekends, and I'm not giving that facility to the customers on weekends. Go ahead, pay a premium. But when you want to watch that movie, which you don't want to pay a premium, these are the days and these are the timings and these are the pricing which you will get. For movie distributors, increased revenues, because even movies which are not big bang movies, which have a moderate, it's a great movie, but you don't want to spend to watch it in a cinema hall because you are looking for impact in a cinema hall. Maybe not always a story. This is specifically for small cities. Go watch it, abhi to muft ki hai. Why are you thinking? Sirf parking ke paise dene, baki to muft hai. So smaller cities will now react to movies which definitely may not necessarily have to be a blockbuster. The world will be beyond blockbusters. Last, we have MovieCard, which is basically growing and sustaining the business with a loyal base of 2.5 minimum visits every month by a customer. The stickiness to that property increases by 13% in the first month. Currently, we have a very large base. We have approximately 9 lakh people who have already subscribed to this program in less than a year. And those 9 lakh people are watching, on an average, 3 movies a month. Yeah, great. So we have at least one, I'm hoping many more. Yes, and hopefully the next conference we come to, we'll have all the hands up. Don't pay full price for movies, please. Don't worry, I'm paying the full price for the movies. So moving forward, basically the sales plan is also very robust. If you want to know how it sells through retail, it sells through online, offline. There are various processes through which we sell. Finally, our aspiration is simple. Currently 9 million members and 150 cities, 450 screens. Intend to become at least 20 million, that's 2 crore audiences by 2022, and at least 7,000 odd screens by then. The intent is to become one of the single largest protection for cinemas and distributors. Look at me like a not an antivirus. That's about it. Yeah. So that's it. Household name, and I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. That's indeed a very pioneering idea, and hopefully, like she said, by the time we're here again the next year, we'll have a lot more subscribers. Talking of cultivating the habit of going to the movies at cinemas, I really think that besides what we do at the exhibition level and besides loyalty programs such as these, the need to drive the footfalls through the right kind of content, like Amit initially pointed out, is critical. Whether you buy a Maruti or a Mercedes, you need fuel to run it. And I think it needs to be a more consolidated, synchronized effort between the producers, distributors, and exhibitors to help the value chain sustain and do well robustly. Arijit, you're one of the unique panelists here because you are an exhibitor, you're also a distributor, and you've been involved with producing content. What do you think are the kind of things that need to come into play, whether it's about the challenges of leadership, whether it's the commercials between producers and distributors, or distributors and exhibitors, that will lead to a more sustained business and sustainable business environment for the entire value chain?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, on the dais and in the house. He's changed my subject a trifle, but let me just touch on the original subject a little bit. Trying to increase business in tier B, C, D stations. I think very aptly put a little while ago, the capex is such and the ATP level is such. Can we recover? As of now, I think it's still a difficult job. If I talk about the eastern part of the country, my experience is more east, so I'll be probably some of my views and some of my experiences are more where east is concerned. I used to have a lot of district theatres, quality district theatres, which were AC, which had all the facilities. But eventually we started seeing that we just could not increase the ATP at all. An air-conditioned pushback cinema with laid out gardens, with a whole lot of other facilities, we could not cross 25 rupees. Now how do you run it? It started becoming over a period of years that we are not even being able to cover the electric cost. Forget about the maintenance, forget about salary, forget about anything. And unfortunately with cinemas, we have nowhere to go. You see, cinemas are basically faceless. An actor has a face, a director has a face, a producer has a face. So we are faceless people, our cinemas are faceless. So where the government is concerned, they are speechless and their budgets have no space for us, spaceless too. So that's one of the problems where we cinema house owners are concerned. We've been neglected. The film industry is totally neglected from the center, and including at the state level, the cinemas, I have not seen anything being given to cinemas over the years. Nothing. We've asked for things, we've asked for a whole lot of supports, but it just never comes. That's one of the biggest problems we have.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but a lot of what we've had is now being taken away. Forget about getting
exactly,
more.
that will come. A lot of, but that is within the industry. Let's keep that. That's within the industry. Some is being grumbled about and being taken away. Tax. We all know the tier B, C, D centers are actually totally more or less 70% dependent on regional content. And that's something which needs to be subsidized, that all states realize that. That's why there was a different tax for the national language film and a different tax for the regional language film. Now it's one tax. It just doesn't make sense. In whose wisdom? I don't know, it just does not make sense. It's just a decision taken and done. It's just not right. Coming back to the subject which he's moving into, what he's saying is how do we get the business to work? How do we at least get the legs to run? Fortunately or unfortunately for our industry, content is king, whether we like it or not. But from our point of view of people sitting here and some of you all there who are theatre owners, we have lots to do. It's not just putting up a 5-star lobby or a 5-star auditorium. Important, I 100% agree. But something which we exhibitors have not really looked at for a long time, which the production sector has started understanding is just, there's, at one time we all knew sales. We all knew the word marketing. Eventually, or marketing. Eventually that broke up into sales, PR, advertisement. There's one factor which has come in very seriously, that is positioning. How do you position your theatre? That's extremely important, how you position your theatre. How do you reach a level of people talking about your theatre? That's extremely important, especially in the metros, especially where let's say, single screens are concerned also. I've had the advantage, touch wood, I have an advantage of having a theatre which people talk about. It's taken as an iconic theatre. Okay, I've inherited it. I've added on a little bit to it. But, okay, it's taken as one of the iconic theatres around. But it had to be built to that position. You have to market it to that position. It's extremely important. Districts, air conditioning, pushback seats, the costing, can we cover it? Do people appreciate it? Will they come in because of that? I have my doubts. Because it's not that none of the districts have it. A lot of single screens do maintain it. They've tried their best to maintain it. But it's not that it's going to get you additional footfalls. And what we're talking about, we have a deficiency in screens. What we have today, 7 I saw up there, we're not being able to fill up 20%. We're not being able to fill up 15%. What happens when you have 30,000 screens? Are we looking at a 5% or a 3% business? So first we need to actually get that habit in. What she said rightly is, movie-going is a matter of habit. That has to be grown. There are a lot of centers. There's, we have an exhibitor somewhere around. There's the state of Tripura. Tripura had just lost, they had just lost their habit of watching films because over 15, 20 years or more, there were no theaters in the entire state. Now, getting that audience back into the auditorium, making them pay for the ticket instead of seeing it on television, it's a Herculean task. And that's something which I think they're doing a reasonably good job, because I entered there for a while and I actually had a real tough time in getting people to come and see films. We used to take the stars there, we used to take everyone there, but people were not bothered. They were just not bothered. नहीं जाएंगे, money नहीं है, जितना भी बड़ा picture लगाओ, nothing's happening, because they've lost their habit of watching films. So this idea of the movie card, what Dina said, if actually it manages, I don't know what her financial situation is of someone paying for one and she's paying for the rest of the shows. I don't know how that works, but it's something. But if that actually gets people to get into the habit of seeing films, I think it'll be just great. So where B and C centers are concerned, I would still say, as of now, as per my experience, these are all corporate people here. They crunch their figures. They've got the top, consultants to look at figures. They've had their boardroom meetings. I've done nothing of that sort. I'm just speaking from the experience point of view. So I would say, I think we need to tread a little, as per my experience, tread a little softly where B, C, D centers are concerned. Yes, her job is there to get people to see it, and all our jobs is also there to actually push the people into the theatre. There has to be ways and means. Nothing is impossible. It may be difficult, but it's certainly not impossible. We have to get that back. It has to be pushed slowly. How much money can come in? I don't know how much an individual can do it. A large part of the business has to come from that individual player at the ground level. Not too many people will have that money to put in and wait for a return to come for years. The corporates have the public funds. They've got tons of funds. They can put it in. But again, they have to crunch figures. Is it worth it or not? So it's a dilly-dally situation which needs to be probably broached upon casually, and at the end of the day, let's hope for the best. Thank you.
And on that note of optimism, I've got my third warning from the wings to end the session because we've overshot the time drastically. Before we do that, I'd quickly like to open it for a bit for the audience. In case you have any questions for any of them, feel free to raise your hands and shoot. Yeah, can we have a mic going there?
Hi there. My question is to Deena ji that that's a fabulous and very thoughtful gesture about the movie card, and of course it's like a loyalty program. But you said that you are actually paying, I'm just talking about the business and being an entrepreneur myself, the business angle of it. So you are paying for everybody's tickets. So how do you keep your machinery fueled with funds? Isn't that a lot of investment on your end? You are paying the exhibitionists and you're paying the other people, like you were saying.
So movie card basically has, the core income is obviously from the subscription base. Now what happens is that, let's say if you have a month where you have 4 blockbuster movies, the tendency for the customer will come with a movie card will be at least 2 in that month. For an exhibition, at least once in that month. So this hopefulness for those high peak months is very high. Now if you see peak months in India are exactly 4. 8 months in the whole year, there aren't much movies. So even if they have to come for a free movie, they will land up coming for maximum 2. The program breaks even if you are watching exactly 2 to 2.5 movies. Actually breaks even at the subscription. Now look at a larger base of people who are buying the movie card and not watching necessarily 1 movie, 2 movies, 2.5 movies. They're watching probably just 1. Now they've been watching none. From there they've come to 1 movie a month. So this is how the base is actually working. It's self-fueling. Am I making profits? No, but I am positive. I am EBITDA positive. So the good thing is that it is a self-fueling engineering. And the larger number of people, they start subscribing to this model, it fuels itself. It's a volume value game. So the larger the base, the more profitable the top is. Because there will be some individuals who will buy movie cards month on month. By the way, my subscription rate is when we call a loyal customer, he or she has subscribed at least 4 times. That means 4 months in the past 12 months. So consistent subscription. That's the loyal customer we call. So when they subscribe 4 times, they are actually watching probably 4 to 5 movies in 4 months. Vis-a-vis when we checked how many movies were they watching earlier, it was 1 in 3 months. So the frequency versus the subscription breaks even. We are not running a program which will burn out. Yes, if I start, if I have this number where almost everybody watches 5 movies, I will. But as the base is 9 million, there are no cinemas. Yes, if the number of cinemas goes up, my base will also have to go up extremely big. So that's how the whole program is based on. So and it's just weekdays, so that's the other part. It's not a weekend program. You have to skip office, school, college, one of the 2, one of the 3, and then come watch the movie.
So actually, if you're very successful in getting people into the habit of watching films, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble because if everyone gets in the habit, I'm going to see a film every week or 2 films every week. You've had it.
Yes, I've had it.
Especially when they're playing truant from work or office.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a Monday to Thursday, and we were not expecting these kind of footfalls. Our average, when we plotted the business for profitability, was 1.5. But we are looking at 2.5, and the last month, which had between July and August, we were at a 3.4. But as I said, that's 4 months in the whole year to maximum 5. So it's a program which is self-fueling and working well.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Anybody? Okay. Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Yes?
Anyways, so that's lovely. Thank you to all the panelists for the lovely insights, and thank you to all of you for being a wonderful audience. Good evening. Thank you.
Once again, I would like to thank all our speakers for a power-packed session. Let's give them a huge round of applause, please. I request you all to kindly remain on stage. May I please invite Mr. Raghav, Director, Big Cine Expo, to kindly present mementos to our esteemed speakers. I request all our panelists, please do not forget to collect your gift from Harman that is being distributed by our ushers. Please do not forget to collect your gift and movie card from them. This is especially for our panelists for today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.